Chapter 4: Echoes of the Past. Years had passed since the Assembly crisis, and the world had continued to evolve under the guidance of the Nexus Rebellion and the Nexus Generation. The Nexus Web was now deeply ingrained in every aspect of human life, and it seemed as though nothing could stand in the way of humanity's progress. But as history had shown, progress often came at a price. As the Nexus Web expanded and its influence grew, the echoes of the past began to resurface, threatening to disrupt the delicate balance that the Nexus Rebellion had worked so hard to maintain. Unbeknownst to Lydia and her allies, remnants of the defeated syndicate had been quietly biding their time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Over the years, they had carefully rebuilt their power base, forging new alliances and cultivating a network of loyal followers. This new syndicate, now operating under the name the Revenants, had a singular goal: to reclaim their lost power and take control of the Nexus Web once and for all. They saw the Nexus Web as the key to their dominion over humanity, and they would stop at nothing to achieve their ambitions. The Revenants began their campaign of terror by targeting the Nexus Rebellion's key infrastructure and launching a series of devastating cyber attacks. These attacks sent shockwaves throughout the Nexus Web, causing widespread panic and confusion. As Lydia and the Nexus Rebellion scrambled to counter the threat, they soon realized that they were not dealing with a mere rogue faction, but an enemy that had returned from the ashes, more dangerous than ever before. The war between the Nexus Rebellion and the Revenants was a brutal and unforgiving struggle. The Revenants had learned from their past mistakes and had become a formidable force, their tactics refined and their resources seemingly endless. Lydia and the Nexus Rebellion were pushed to their limits as they fought to protect the Nexus Web and the world it had come to define. The Ghost Division, once again called into action, led the charge against the Revenants' relentless cyber warfare. But even as they battled their ruthless enemy, the Nexus Rebellion found that they were not alone in their struggle. The Nexus Generation, now leaders in their own right, refused to stand idly by as their world was threatened. They rallied to the cause, their unique skills and experiences proving invaluable in the fight against the Revenants. As the conflict raged on, it became clear that the stakes were higher than ever before. The Revenants were not only seeking control of the Nexus Web, but they were also determined to undermine the very foundation of human society, sowing discord and mistrust among the global population. The Nexus Rebellion, with the support of the Nexus Generation, fought tirelessly to counter the Revenants' insidious tactics and protect the fragile peace that they had worked so hard to achieve. The world watched with bated breath as the fate of the Nexus Web and humanity itself hung in the balance. In the end, it was the combined efforts of the Nexus Rebellion and the Nexus Generation that would ultimately turn the tide against the Revenants. Through their perseverance and unwavering belief in the power of the Nexus Web, they were able to expose the Revenants' true intentions and rally the world to their cause. The Revenants, their plans thwarted and their power base shattered, were once again defeated. The Nexus Web was saved, and the world breathed a collective sigh of relief. In the aftermath of the conflict, Lydia and her allies knew that their work was far from over. The resurgence of the Revenants had served as a stark reminder that the Nexus Web and the world it had come to shape would always face threats from those who sought to exploit its power for their own nefarious purposes. They understood that they had to remain vigilant, always prepared to defend the Nexus Web and the values it represented. The Nexus Rebellion, with the support of the Nexus Generation, redoubled its efforts to protect the network and advance its potential. They focused on developing new technologies and strategies to counter emerging threats, ensuring that the Nexus Web remained a force for good in the world. As the years passed, the Nexus Web continued to grow and evolve, its influence reaching every corner of the globe. New breakthroughs in science, technology, and communication were made possible by the network, forever changing the course of human history. The legacy of the Nexus Paradox lived on, a testament to the power of human ingenuity and the enduring spirit of progress. Lydia Carter, once a brilliant scientist with a dream of changing the world, had become the guardian of humanity's greatest achievement, a role she would carry with her for the rest of her days. The world moved forward, its future uncertain but full of potential. And at the heart of it all was the Nexus Web, a beacon of hope and a symbol of humanity's boundless capacity for growth and innovation. As Lydia looked toward the horizon, she knew that there would always be challenges to face and obstacles to overcome. But she also knew that as long as there were those who believed in the power of the Nexus Web, the future would be bright, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of a better tomorrow. The Nexus Rebellion and the Nexus Generation stood as guardians of this promise, ready to face whatever trials lay ahead. And as they looked to the future, they did so with hope, determination, and the unwavering belief that the power of human connection would continue to shape the world for generations to come. As the world continued to change and adapt, new challenges and opportunities arose. The Nexus Web, while a powerful force for good, was not without its vulnerabilities. It became clear that the network required constant vigilance and maintenance to ensure its stability and security. The Nexus Rebellion and the Nexus Generation worked hand in hand to develop new protocols and safeguards, striving to stay one step ahead of potential threats. They also focused on education and outreach, teaching people across the globe about the responsible use of the Nexus Web and the importance of digital citizenship. The connection between the Nexus Web and artificial intelligence grew stronger as AI became an essential component of the network's infrastructure. As AI systems became more sophisticated, they proved to be invaluable allies in the fight against cyber threats and helped to maintain the network's stability. Yet as AI technology continued to advance, new ethical questions arose. As AI systems gained greater autonomy and decision-making capabilities, the line between human and machine began to blur. The Nexus Rebellion and the Nexus Generation found themselves at the forefront of these debates, working to ensure that AI technology developed in a responsible and ethical manner. Lydia, now a respected elder stateswoman in the global community, continued to play an instrumental role in these discussions. She understood the potential dangers that unchecked AI development could pose, and she dedicated herself to fostering a world in which humans and AI could coexist in harmony. Despite the challenges they faced, Lydia and her allies never lost sight of the promise of the Nexus Web. They understood that the network's true potential could only be realized if it remained a force for good, a tool to unite humanity and foster understanding. As the years turned into decades, the Nexus Web continued to transform the world in ways that were once thought impossible. The Nexus Rebellion and the Nexus Generation, now joined by a new generation of individuals born into a world forever changed by the Nexus Web, worked together to uphold the values that had guided them since the beginning. Together they confronted each new challenge, guided by the belief in the power of the Nexus Web to shape a better future. They knew that the road ahead would be fraught with obstacles and uncertainty, but they also knew that they had the strength, determination, and resilience to overcome whatever trials lay before them. The legacy of the Nexus Paradox endured, a reminder of the boundless potential that lay within the hearts and minds of humanity. The Nexus Web, once a simple idea born from the mind of a brilliant scientist, had become the driving force of humanity's progress. As long as there were those who believed in the power of the Nexus Web, the future would be filled with endless possibilities, and the promise of a brighter world would continue to inspire and unite generations to come. End of Chapter 4. Echoes of the Past.